Okay, welcome back to the Seven Deadly Sins anime review, episode number 29. This I'm reviewing the 70th of Demon Dark. I'm also reviewing the 342th chapter, and there's announcements about the manga that I'm going to talk about when I talk about the actual manga. This episode pretty much stops some chapters. It finishes up chapter 361. It goes through the entirety of 261. Finishes up the last chapter, taps the last 3 pages of the chapter, and goes through the entirety of chapters 262 to 264. You might be asking the question, is there any visual changes here? Couple minor ones at best. Yeah. For instance, when they start the episode off, they show the knights, and well, I'm like, what the heck is this? The animation of the knights in this episode look freaking bad. Like, oh my gosh, what the heck happened with these freaking knights? Why do they look so freaking bad in these wide shots? Yes, it's like they're trying to experiment with CGI in this thing, but it looks terrible. Like, oh my gosh, what the heck happened here? And it happens twice in this episode, where the knights from the King of Leonis look freaking terrible in their freaking armors. It's like people who work in this episode, like, okay, like all the rest of the characters look fantastic. They look really good compared to the knights in this battlefield. They look freaking terrible. That's my only negative nitpick about this episode. Is the knights look freaking bad. The episode starts off with Gothard detecting this mysterious presence coming straight to the battlefield, and it's Desiree. Yep, from the previous episode. She comes here. Yeah, she was sent here by Estarossa. She actually was by Maspet. And there's a brief moment toward the end of the episode where she and Elizabeth basically are talking, like, she wonders, like, what could Maspet said, basically, that was words he had to keep hidden, but he couldn't say because of his commandment. Elizabeth says she doesn't really know. But the wild theory is that Estarossa was definitely in love with Desiree. He couldn't say it because of his commandment. Yep. And then, like, not long after she shows up, Estarossa himself shows up, shirtless, and without his gauntlets from the last episode. Yeah, somehow he survived. Yeah, it's not thoroughly explained. Yep, and then he summons his giant hellhound, which I gotta say, the anime does a lot better job with this hellhound than the manga has it, because the manga, it looks pretty bad. Yes, like, if you're wondering what the heck does the hound look like in the manga, it's like very basic. This is how the Visme translation basically has the hellhound. It looks pretty bad, cause I'm looking at this, and some sequences. Here's the hellhound. Here's how it looks in the manga. The anime, I think, did a lot better job with this thing. Yeah, it looks a lot more cleaner. There's a little bit of red in there, so looking like black like it does in the manga. Though, of course, the manga is in black and white. Yep. Summons the hellhound and circles around Elizabeth and Desiree. And now, in case you're wondering, does Elizabeth fight this hellhound in this episode? The answer is no, she doesn't. And she does, when Desiree first shows up, I think it's Deathpierce wants to kill her for killing, well, Elizabeth's uncle. His sword does nothing to her except breaks. Yeah, it does nothing. She, of course, is in a trance because she's basically grieving over Asterossa's, grieving over Maspa's death. Yep, and then while this is going on, then of course we have two of the 3 archangels. Larcille, who's possessing Margaret, she's nowhere in this episode, by the way. Yeah, where she is, I think she's off in their bath with Merlin and Escanor. And, of course, Gilthunder. Yeah, I think they went to Camelot, but that's not explored till later. And then pretty much a majority of this episode is just Estarossa versus the 2 archangels. Yeah, that's the battle that pretty much takes up almost the entire episode. And mostly put, it's pretty much the same, except they're kind of rearranging some sequences, like the habits where at one point where you have Esteros stabbing the taller one, and in the manga they cut to something else, then go back to him melting. In the anime, they kind of put the sequences in proper order per se. So like, bam, yeah, that's kind of what they did with this particular one. They kind of rearranged some stuff and look like in proper order per se, and at several points it looked like Esteros looked like he was killed. He gets sliced in half. He gets his chest blown open. Though at least they'll show it graphically. It's covered up by the black goo, which is fine. And Yankee H1 to do this in the manga? Yeah, they do. They covered it up with that. And let's see what else. Yeah, the episode, and then toward the end of the episode, he starts absorbing the commandments that he had basically taken. And of course, he mentioned he got Galahor's commandment, he got Mosfet's commandment, and becomes basically what he becomes is pretty much one of the three people who becomes host of sort of the Demon King, and that's where the episode ends. It's a pretty good episode. Mostly put, like, the only negative nitpick I have about the episode is the animation on the knights. It looks pretty bad. It's like, excuse me, yeah, maybe the people who were working this episode, maybe the people who were supposed to work in this episode got sick because of the stupid virus. It's possible, but I don't know what the reason is why the knights look so freaking bad. But the manga is a heck of a lot better than this, basically. And of course, looking forward to next week's episode, which apparently looks like it's going to be the final episode of the season. I'm like, okay, interesting. And this episode also had the last of the Hawk lessons, where he just basically talks about himself. Yeah, they said there would be 40 of these. It was actually 23. I don't know why. Maybe it's going to be a bonus one next week. Who knows? Oh, before I start with the review of the new chapter of the manga, Heirs, I should point out, though, this is the second to last chapter of the series. Why? Because it was announced this morning that next week, on March 25th, the final chapter is going to be released. Chapter 346 is definitely the official final chapter of the series. This is the second last chapter. And we have ourselves a time skip. Yep, a frickin' time skip. Yep, 18 months passed by since the end of the previous chapter. We have two of the... I think it's, I don't remember what this guy's name is. Yeah, he's one basically has the closest with Merlin. Calls her Big Sis. So yeah, they have these two just cleaning up, basically. I think it's just, yeah, it's not Meliodas, I think it's somebody else. They're cleaning up some Warren Demon, cleaning up some bandits. And then you have, looks like Jericho and the Great Holy Knight just sparring, and then one of the fairy shows is like bugging, like, what bug? It's like, and of course then like he says, I got a message for you, Jericho. He whispers like, seriously? Bodily our Chief Lancer, I got something to take care of on the Fairy King's force. So excuse me. Huh? You got something to take care of? See ya. What the heck? She just leaves, and of course Gala's like, she's smiling. Yeah, this is actually the first time Gala's actually wearing something else aside from her armor she wears in the series. Then we see Deathbeard, who decides to resign from her post as Holy Knight. And he goes back to Edinburgh. Which I should point out, though, is a frickin' Scotland. Yeah, so he gets back to Scotland. I should point out, though, that Edinburgh, in this series, was home to frickin' vampires. And Zeteros killed all of them. Except for his lover. So, does this mean Deathbeard is a vampire? Or at least somebody who's not a vampire? I don't know. It's particularly very weird. He says basically he's wanted to for some time, and he does not want to be a kingdom where it's ruled by a demon and a goddess. So he leaves. And the fact that the goddess who killed his mentor, so he just leaves. And then we have Dreyfus and Henderson just building a school. Yep, they put together a school. And it's right near where the castle is. And then we have Batra, who was the, well, soon to be former king. Anything like these, basically. And we see Gil Thunder and his cousin Grimoire. I forgot to mention, there's a brief scene here, which I think is anime original, where Greymore was basically attacked by a demon, very strong one. Don't know who this guy is. And of course, Dreyfus comes in, saves his son, and kills Demon. Simple as that. It's a very quick scene. Yep. And of course, well, Gelthunder is basically with Margaret, and Veronica's with Greymore. Yeah, it's been hinted at that Veronica and Greymore have a thing for each other. There's way more in love with every time. Of course, it's been confirmed that, well, in the case of Margaret and Gelthunder, yeah, they're a couple. Yep. So, all about grandchild, thanks to my vision. And then it cuts to Fairy King's forest, like, shame on you. You still spying them? But guard, what's in there? What is in there? The fact that Elaine is pregnant with Bond's child. Yep. And he decides the name. Yeah, what the name is, I'll reveal once I get to the end of the chapter. And then apparently, then we see briefly, and this is so funny, Zedros and his lover Gula, who apparently are shocked the fact that Elizabeth is pregnant. Yep, pregnant. That's that made my mind. Yeah, they're gonna because apparently, basically Elaine and Elizabeth are both pregnant at the same time, and this is connection to King Arthur lore. Okay, Meliodas decided to name his kid Tristan, and was Bond name his Lancelot. Just to be one future ahead of you. Well. What kind of king future waits? So, okay, so Bonnie and Elaine named their kid Lancelot, the guy who was considered to be, in King Arthur lore, the bravest of all of the knights of the Round Table. Tristan, I think, is, remember, I don't know much about, I remember much of this guy because I haven't read much of the King Arthur lore. What I know about him, he's one of the knights. I think he's also one of Lancelot's closest friends, aside from King Arthur himself. But it's interesting to know that two of the couples in the series who are going to have kids, and they're naming them after knights of the round, two knights of the Knights of the Round Table Camelot. Interesting. This is going to be a pretty interesting thing to do. And I kind of suspected we're going to have a time skip because, well, they already confirmed the manga's going to end really soon, so, and this is normal for most series I've seen, so why not have a time skip? 18 months actually is quite interesting. Not the first series I've seen to have an 18-month time skip, but in the case of this series, this is the first time I could think of they've ever had a time skip in this series. Yes, because normally they were proceeding it pretty normally. Like, I would say it's very, well, the series has been going on now officially for about 5 years, I'd say. And you can kind of assume that a lot of the time these chapters take place in a period of about a day or two at most, and then basically jump ahead later. Yeah. So, since the fact we're at chapter 346, you can kind of say, yeah, that almost like every chapter is like almost like a day, per se. I mean, some chapters, if you look at them, it looks like maybe about a few hours pass by over the course of these like 20, 30 chapters at most. Yes, but that's a manga for you. I'm going to give this chapter a 10 out of 10. It's a great chapter. I love it. And it seems as though we're kind of get basically followed with most of the characters in this series. I would say the only ones I can think of who don't appear in this chapter, we don't get follow-up from them, is King and Deanne. Like, there's no mention these two have kids yet, because I'm sure they're probably going to have kids. And nothing from Merlin this chapter. Yeah, second chapter in a row, no Merlin. Okay. And there's nothing for Gother. Like, what the heck is he doing? I have no idea. It's particularly very weird. And it's nice, though, the fact Elizabeth's finally going to have herself a child. That's quite nice of her. And it's implied, though, that Elizabeth's pregnant with a boy, which is, and I've talked to somebody about this, basically, who's an English sub actor. This is very typical for a lot of, basically, heroines, basically, who are love interests of a main female, who are female leads, and they're basically with the male lead. And what's the first child they usually have? A lot of the series I've seen, but I've read and watched, what's usually the first gender they go for? A boy. The only one I've read, and Austin Taylor agrees with me on this, because even he thinks this is actually quite usual for manga or anime to do this. Of course, he basically had voiced another character who's got the same type of gender as well, of a first child in a different series, where the first child that a couple has is a girl. And this is the male lead of the series, who has a child with his female love interest. Almost all the series I read, except for Tokyo Ghoul, with the captions in that one, though they kind of confirmed in Fairy Tail that the writer of Fairy Tail has made canon that Lucy and Natsu are destined to be together and they're supposed to have a child together, possibly a girl, though that hasn't happened yet. But actually, what has actually happened so far, only one series has done it, where basically we have a time skip, and the first child that the main character and his female love interest have where almost all of them except for one has been a boy. Tokugo Ri was the first one to break that trope to be a girl. Yes, a girl. Yeah, but in the case of this, it looks like it's going to be a boy. Yes, a boy. Interesting. Yeah, but it's not unusual for this to happen. Yeah. But I am looking forward to the final chapter of the series, and I will get my final thoughts on the manga when the final chapter comes out next week. Probably in a special. And probably my last special for this series because, excuse me, once the season ends, like, what to expect next. Basically, next time I review anything related to the series once the season ends is probably the next OVA. That's probably going to be it. That and, well, whenever they decide to do a season 4 for the series, which that will probably just probably adapt the rest of the manga at this point. Yeah. But in the case of how far the anime has gotten so far, they've gotten to chapter 64. You see, the current arc on New Holy War was 50 chapters. They've only gotten about 8 chapters in so far, in about a handful of episodes. Yeah, they've only covered 8 chapters out of 50. So they have officially 42 chapters left. And with the next week's episode be the final episode season, I don't think they're going to go much further than basically where they're going to go. My guess is they're probably going to go as far as maybe either they'll go to 66 or maybe up to 68. It just depends exactly what Studio D wants to do with the final episode of Season 3. I hope there's a Season 4. I think overall the season's been pretty good. Yeah, I'd say about toward the middle of the season, it kind of basically, I think for some people, they've not liked what Studio D has done with the series. I think that what they did with New Holy War has actually been really good. I've thoroughly enjoyed it so far anyways, but I'll give my final thoughts on the season and, of course, the manga next week for the series. Okay, so that's it for this particular review. I might have time to do another review tonight. It just depends. If not, probably expect the next review for you to watch probably tomorrow. I'll cover the final 10 episodes of Season 6. And probably also going to cover tomorrow the next Case Closed film. And maybe if I get time, the 4th Inuyasha film. So probably expect about 3 videos tomorrow, okay? But do this next video. Bye.